It's the 5th of September today. People sometimes say that the Bible doesn't address practical situations, but I'm sure we've all had the situation where we've come down at the start of a new morning and found our dad naked, passed out on the floor of the front room because he got completely hammered the night before. Haven't you? And what the Bible does perfectly here is it tells us how we should act in that situation, which is go and get our brother and then cover dad with a duvet. Well, yes, that's one interpretation. I think that's literally what it would suggest if you find yourself in that situation. But there's more to it than that. One of the things that strange little story I think hints at is that we're to honour our parents. And that's something that's picked up in the Ten Commandments, and also Jesus picks that up, and so does Paul in the New Testament. It's not something that we like to talk about very much because honouring our parents, isn't exactly a popular topic, is it? But this is for any of us, whether we are teenagers, whether we are in our 30s, or we're in our, 50s, if your parents are still around at that stage. And what I think it's getting at is to choose to be kind, to choose to be obedient as we can be. And of course, we must understand that our parents aren't perfect. Nobody's parents are ever going to be perfect. But recognizing maybe the flaws that our parents might have, trying to love them and honour them anyway. Now, first of all, we're to love and honour God before any person or any human being, including our mums and dads. But after that, to try and love and honour them as best we can seems to be something that God instructs us to do quite clearly. Some of the lists of names here that we read again in Genesis it's really the author of Genesis trying to trace back the peoples around him to the original ancestor. So it would be like if I was to trace the original the Welsh back to the original Welshman, or the Scots back to the original Scotsman. That's what he's doing there. And then when we come onto the Tower of Babel, this is an interesting little story. And at that point, we see the whole human race spoke one language. And really, it was the one language of disobedience. They were living in a way that wasn't pleasing to God. And how that acted itself out is they try and make a name for themselves. Do you see that little phrase that pops up? Let's build a massive tower and make a name for ourselves. Today, even though God's mixed up the languages, and we now have to sit GCSE French and German, even though he's mixed up the languages, there's still a sense in which there is that common human language of wanting to make a name for ourselves. When we become Christians, we enter a different sort of people group, and we have a different kind of language. Our language is not to make a name for ourselves, but to make God's name known, to glorify God's name in everything that we do. And in the story of the church when it's born, here we see everyone's language getting mixed up. But in Acts chapter 2, when the church is born on the day of Pentecost, the disciples pour out of the upper room and everyone hears them speaking in his own language. It's like God's reversing what happened in Babel. And the language is proclaiming the gospel, and it's making known the fact that God has come to us, lowered himself to serve us. So as we go out today, the challenge is don't go out trying to make your name great, trying to accomplish something that makes you look like a god. Go out serving people, and when they ask why, give the glory to God, because it belongs to him anyway.